Oz Certified Database. Specialty DBSC01 exam dumps questions are the best material for you to study all the related topics. Share some DBSC01 exam dumps questions here. 1. A manufacturing company's website uses an Amazon Aurora PostgreSQL DB cluster. Which configurations will result in the least application downtime during a failover? Choose 3. A. Use the provided read and write Aurora endpoints to establish a connection to the Aurora DB cluster. B. Create an Amazon CloudWatch alert triggering a restore in another availability zone when the primary Aurora DB cluster is unreachable. C. Edit and enable Aurora DB cluster cache management in parameter groups. D. Set TCP keep alive parameters to a high value. E. Set JDBC connection string timeout variables to a low value. F. Set Java DNS caching timeouts to a high value. 2. A company is running a finance application on an Amazon RDS for MySQL DB instance. The application is governed by multiple financial regulatory agencies. The RDS-DB instance is set up with security groups to allow access to certain Amazon EC2 servers only. AWS KMS is used for encryption at rest. Which step will provide additional security? A. Set up NACLs that allow the entire EC2 subnet to access the DB instance. B. Disable the master user account. C. Set up a security group that blocks SSH to the DB instance. D. Set up RDS to use SSL for data in transit. 3. A gaming company wants to deploy a game in multiple regions. The company plans to save local high scores in Amazon DynamoDB tables in each region. A database specialist needs to design a solution to automate the deployment of the database with identical configurations in additional regions, as needed. The solution should also automate configuration changes across all regions. Which solution would meet these requirements and deploy the DynamoDB tables? A. Create an AWS CLI command to deploy the DynamoDB table to all the regions and save it for future deployments. B. Create an AWS CloudFormation template and deploy the template to all the regions. C. Create an AWS CloudFormation template and use a stack set to deploy the template to all the regions. D. Create DynamoDB tables using the AWS Management Console in all the regions and create a step-by-step guide for future deployments. 4. A team of database specialists is currently investigating performance issues on an Amazon RDS for MySQL DB instance and is reviewing related metrics. The team wants to narrow the possibilities down to specific database wait events to better understand the situation. How can the database specialists accomplish this? A. Enable the option to push all database logs to Amazon CloudWatch for advanced analysis. B. Create appropriate Amazon CloudWatch dashboards to contain specific periods of time. C. Enable Amazon RDS performance insights and review the appropriate dashboard. D. Enable enhanced monitoring while the appropriate settings. 5. A large company is using an Amazon RDS for Oracle Multi-as DB instance with a Java application. As a part of its disaster recovery annual testing, the company would like to simulate an availability zone failure and record how the application reacts during the DB instance failover activity. The company does not want to make any code changes for this activity. What should the company do to achieve this in the shortest amount of time? A. Use a blue-green deployment with a complete application-level failover test. B. Use the RDS console to reboot the DB instance by choosing the option to reboot with failover. C. Use RDS fault injection queries to simulate the primary node failure. D. Add a rule to the NACL to deny all traffic on the subnets associated with a single availability zone. 6. A database specialist is setting up a new Amazon Aurora DB cluster with one primary instance and 3 Aurora replicas for a highly intensive, business-critical application. The Aurora DB cluster has one medium-sized primary instance, one large-sized replica, and 2 medium-sized replicas. The database specialist did not assign a promotion tier to the replicas. In the event of a primary failure, what will occur? A. Aurora will promote an Aurora replica that is of the same size as the primary instance. B. Aurora will promote an arbitrary Aurora replica. C. Aurora will promote the largest sized Aurora replica. D. Aurora will not promote an Aurora replica. 7. A company is running its line of business application on AWS, which uses Amazon RDS for MySQL at the persistent data store. The company wants to minimize downtime when it migrates the database to Amazon Aurora. Which migration method should a database specialist use? A. Take a snapshot of the RDS for MySQL DB instance and create a new Aurora DB cluster with the option to migrate snapshots. B. Make a backup of the RDS for MySQL DB instance using the MySQL dump utility, create a new Aurora DB cluster, and restore the backup. C. Create an Aurora replica from the RDS for MySQL DB instance and promote the Aurora DB cluster. D. Create a clone of the RDS for MySQL DB instance and promote the Aurora DB cluster. 8. The security team for a finance company was notified of an internal security breach that happened 3 weeks ago. A database specialist must start producing audit logs out of the production Amazon Aurora PostgreSQL cluster for the security team to use for monitoring and alerting. The security team is required to perform real-time alerting and monitoring outside the Aurora DB cluster and wants to have the cluster push encrypted files to the chosen solution. Which approach will meet these requirements? A. Use PG_audit to generate audit logs and send the logs to the security team. B. Use AWS CloudTrail to audit the DB cluster and the security team will get data from Amazon S3. C. Set up database activity streams and connect the data stream from Amazon Kinesis to consumer applications. D. Turn on verbose logging and set up a schedule for the logs to be dumped out for the security team. 9. A company is about to launch a new product, and test databases must be recreated from production data. The company runs its production databases on an Amazon Aurora MySQL DB cluster. A database specialist needs to deploy a solution to create these test databases as quickly as possible with the least amount of administrative effort. What should the database specialist do to meet these requirements? A. Restore a snapshot from the production cluster into test clusters. B. Create logical dumps of the production cluster and restore them into new test clusters. C. Use database cloning to create clones of the production cluster. D. Add an additional read replica to the production cluster and use that node for testing. 10. A company is planning to close for several days. A database specialist needs to stop all applications along with the DB instances to ensure employees do not have access to the systems during this time. All databases are running on Amazon RDS for MySQL. The database specialist wrote and executed a script to stop all the DB instances. When reviewing the logs, the database specialist found that Amazon RDS DB instances with read replicas did not stop. How should the database specialist edit the script to fix this issue? A. Stop the source instances before stopping their read replicas. B. Delete each read replica before stopping its corresponding source instance. C. Stop the read replicas before stopping their source instances. D. Use the AWS CLI to stop each read replica and source instance at the same time.